Welcome back to Weekly Pulse. I'm your host, Mackenzie Salmon. This week, we're covering the College Football National Championship, the start of the 2021 NHL season, and we catch up with Seattle Seahawks legend Shaun Alexander. Let's roll. It's time for Weekly Pulse, your heartbeat to what's trending in sports. The Alabama Crimson Tide added yet another national title to its resume this week, topping Ohio State and giving head coach Nick Saban his 7th ring. Our college football post-game recap will tell you more on that matchup. The Tide rolled, Twitter trolled, the Buckeyes defense, bleh. For those expecting an instant classic, we got anything but. It was clear from the start Justin Fields had to be perfect to give Ohio State a chance. He was just good, which is never good enough against Bama.
You know, for him to go out there and play today, really shows his toughness and made some really good throws, made some gutsy plays, kept us in the game there for a while.
I was healthy enough, and I was able to be out there. We just weren't able to get the job done. I was just telling them to remember this feeling, and never let it happen to them again.
But this natty was, of course, about the Bama triplets. Mac Jones balled with whoever was out there, securing his legacy and his status as a first-round quarterback. Najee hurdled and hammered Buckeyes into submission for a hat trick. Smitty, Slim Reaper, Heisman winner, GOAT Devontae Smith couldn't be covered. And Ohio State, frankly, at times looked like they didn't even try. And he did it all in one half.
I just put in the work every day, no matter what the situation was, just believing in my coaches and them putting me in the right situations just to make plays.
I'm so happy for him that he was recognized as the best player in college football, because I don't think anybody's done more for their team than he has for our team.
To think he bookends his college career with iconic moments in the Natty, it's safe to say he leaves as one of the greatest receivers to ever play college football. Speaking of greatest ever, Saban now has the most championships ever by a head coach in college football history. If there was any debate about best programs in the 151 years of college football, it's over. It's Saban and Bama.
The 2020 college football season is complete as Alabama destroys Ohio State to claim the program's 6th national championship under Nick Saban. So let's start talking about 2021. I know you're going to be surprised, but 2021 is going to look a lot like 2020. The same teams are going to dominate the top 5, top 10 of the coaches poll, and you know the names: Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia. These teams have dominated college football for years. There's no reason at all to expect that trend to not continue going into next season. Alabama is an interesting team, however. They're going to lose a lot. They're going to lose Mac Jones very likely at quarterback. They're down Najee Harris. They'll lose Devontae Smith. There's going to be a lot of star power gone, and even on the offensive line, on the offensive side of the ball. On the other hand, they have a sophomore quarterback coming up, Bryce Young, who's a 5-star recruit and amazing talent. I think Alabama will still be there, but they'll face a challenge from Georgia. Georgia's going to be really, really good, especially with JT Daniels coming back at quarterback. That makes the Bulldogs dangerous. They'll be the best team in the SEC East. They'll be a threat to Alabama for the SEC championship and spot in the playoff. Elsewhere, it's DJ Uiagalelei's time at Clemson. Ohio State will reload without Justin Fields. If you're looking for a sleeper, maybe Iowa in the Big Ten. Florida could still be very good in the SEC. Not a lot of teams in the Pac-12, but maybe USC, maybe Oregon makes a run at the playoff, giving that league some breathing room and a chance to compete for a national championship. And lastly, Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to be deserving of being in the top 4 heading into next year, the way they finished against Florida in bowl play. They bring back sophomore quarterback Spencer Rattler. If the defense is as good as it was down the stretch this year, and they carry that into next year, Oklahoma is a threat to win it all.
And now that the college football season has wrapped up, let's take a look at who's atop the college basketball rankings.
A surprise team that we need to start talking about in the coaches poll is Clemson. The Tigers have been doing way better than expected this season, and it's not because of a spectacular offense, it's because of a top 5 defense. Coach Brad Brownell has his team going and could do some things here in the ACC. A national title contending team that could eventually vault to the number 1 spot in the coaches poll is Iowa. The Hawkeyes have been sensational this year, and they were expected to be because they got Luka Garza back. He was a National Player of the Year candidate last year. He's just as good this year, but this team as a whole is even better. And you're thinking about a crowded Big Ten. You've got Illinois that's a contending team. You've got Wisconsin. Then you've got Michigan. Iowa's the best team right now in the Big Ten. And whichever team comes out of that league could definitely be a national title contender. Remaining atop the USA Today Sports Coaches poll is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. And don't look for Coach Mark Few's team to lose it anytime soon, and that's because ultimately the West Coast Conference is not loaded from a scheduling standpoint. And look, this is one of Coach Mark Few's best teams, and that's not necessarily because of the all-star superstar talent. It's because of the sum of its parts. Corey Kispert's one of the best players in the country, but this is a well-balanced, well-oiled machine. The best offense in the country, averaging 96 points a game. Gonzaga's out there doing some things, and it's going to be very hard for them to lose going into the rest of the season.
Welcome back to Weekly Pulse. On January 13th, the NHL season is officially back. Despite a short offseason, the NHL and its Players Association have agreed to a 56-game regular season. I talked to Florida Panthers COO Sean McCaffrey about new safety measures put in place to ensure the safety of fans and staff. What do NHL fans have to look forward to with this unprecedented season?
I think hockey coming back first and foremost. I mean, we've been waiting a while. Obviously, teams have, during the last expanded playoffs, had to go into bubbles. So I think at least a lot of teams will return in their cities. We're hoping to return our team back to Florida to the fans that they want to play in front of, and, hopefully have some fans in the building.
Is the new format for division something the league is considering permanently? And I want to know, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of this format?
I haven't heard anything in terms of the future. I think it's positive for us. We get to create new rivalries. You're used to seeing kind of the same teams multiple times. So we'll get to meet a few teams, in back-to-backs and a little more during the season. So I think naturally there's going to be a lot of rivalries that get created, in the current format. And then I think it's just more logical in terms of the safety and travel of teams trying to geographically let them play more frequently, so avoid any exposure. So I think it's going to be a great format. We're going to get to see new teams, and I think you're going to see some real rivalries that you wouldn't have normally expected out of this.
I'm glad you mentioned the rivalries because the NHL playoffs have always been special. How will these divisions impact the way the playoffs will be formatted? I'm very curious.
I don't think I can comment yet on that. We'll see. I think, the league everything's fluid in terms of the situation. We're still trying to figure out how the vaccine gets out, how many people get it. Hopefully we can move it sooner and we can get back to some semblance of normal towards the latter part of the season. And then I think the league will determine things from there.
You guys have implemented a handful of health and safety protocols to ensure the safety of workers, players, staff. You guys are planning on having fans attend your games, but how are you able to make that possible in an indoor arena?
Yeah, we returned our workforce in the early summer and kind of perfected our rhythm in terms of how we bring people in, getting safety protocol. We worked on it a couple months before we thought we could safely return them, and then just built and on those process and controls, following CDC, WHO guidelines, trying to figure out best practices across the industry, talking to a ton of people, and we've been really successful at that in terms of having our workforce come back, and then obviously once we got them back, we could work well with each other to look at the building as a whole. We really focused on third-party verification, so we went to the Well Building Institute, and they're kind of an international leader in terms of the wellness within a building, and kind of formed a COVID task force with all those necessary infectious disease experts. And we kind of let them steer our process along. So we've instituted all sorts of controls, whether it's touchless transactions, entering the building, new flow of people, new way we do ventilation, new filtration of air. We kind of looked at every part of especially a fan journey to try to make it safe as possible. So I think we're ready to welcome, I think it'll be a limited capacity. It won't be like what we're normally used to, but we're ready to welcome back, a small group of folks into the building safely.
What would you say to a fan that wants to go to a game but might be skeptical because of the pandemic?
I think, we're following every rule. We have a really, really large building that we normally can fit 20,000 people in. People will be socially distanced just like any other place that you go to on a frequent basis. So I don't think it's going to be any less safe than, any of the retail stores you go to. Restaurants are still open in parts of the country. I think we're just going to be just as safer than them. And then we've really, I think, expanded We have the foundational elements that everyone knows to stop COVID, but we've really expanded those safety protocols. So I think the environment's actually going to be safer, and we're going to be enforcing standards with fans. There's the basic standards of a universal mask policy for all fans that will be enforced because we think it's necessary to ensure the safety of everyone that wants to attend the game.
And the Seattle Kraken begin play next season. It sounds like their expansion draft will be this summer, but what are your thoughts on how the NHL has done expansion?
I think it's been great. You're getting into cities and markets that are exciting. I lived in the Seattle area for a while. I think the team's going to do really well. I know there's an excitement around that team. And it's good for everyone. The more people playing the game, getting engaged with the game, it helps the league overall. So I know we're excited for them. They're getting their building ready, and they still got a lot of work to do. But I've seen a lot of their plans and what they're doing. I think they put a great team in place. They're redoing the arena there, and it's going to be beautiful. So I think we're all excited to go visit them. Obviously, I think they're going to be a huge success.
Welcome back to Weekly Pulse. It was a season of ups and downs for the Seahawks. They were hot at the start of the season, and then after getting beat by the Rams in the wild card, they weren't. Former Seahawks legend Sean Alexander joins me to talk about what he would look for in a new offensive coordinator, and of course, we talk running backs. I want to start off talking a little bit about this Seahawks season they just had. As you know, at the start of the season, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks offense were pretty much all anyone could talk about. And it appeared to crater in the second half of the season. Did you notice anything being off about the offense and why this team looked so flat in the wild card game in the last half of the season?
Football is one of those interesting things. Like, you don't know, the regular fan doesn't know who's really beat up, who's hurt, who's not hurt. And the coaches are scheming plans and game plans around what they actually have. And so to me, it just looked like Seattle was a little more beat up than what everybody else knew. And you lose a lineman here, you lose a person has just one or two injuries offensively or defensively, and you change your scheme. And that's what it looked like. It looked like a beat up Seahawks team with injuries that were not big enough to take you out, but big enough to alter the game plan. And those little things, and you play against good teams, obviously you get to the playoffs and everybody's good. They know how to shut down what would normally work, and then it takes healthy minds and healthy bodies to go and make something special, and we just didn't have it this year.
The team decided to part ways with their OC. What was your reaction to that move, and what do you personally think they should look for in a new OC?
I think that whenever you lose an OC, it's always about how you would scheme and how you shift off of game planning. And so there's probably a disconnect with what Russ does and what they want Russ to do with Schottenheimer's game planning. I think they're going to look for a coach, an OC that can actually run the ball and come up with some good running schemes that matches with Russell's talent, because he can do it all.
And Sean, you're here on behalf of the FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Year. In your opinion, who are the Air and Ground Players of the Year, and how can fans vote?
Yeah, so this is really exciting. So, the FedEx Air and Ground NFL Player of the Year, I won the Ground Player of the Year in 2005 when I won the MVP. And this is exciting. We've got three great air nominees: Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. The running backs are super special because I knew two of them when they were freshmen in college, Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, and then also Dalvin Cook, who I just think is amazing. So between those six guys, the FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Year award, we are going to find two winners, and we're going to give $20,000 on behalf of the winner in the cities that they play in our partnership with Direct Relief. And so the goal is to help create with that $40,000 is to use these emergency medical care bags, and each bag helps about 500 people. And the goal is to impact so many. We want to have the goal with FedEx to impact 500 or 50 million families by their 50th year, which is 2023.
Do you have a little bit of a say in the Ground Player of the Year? I want to know who's on your radar.
Well, I mean, you guys already know, like, Derrick Henry is he's like a nephew to me. You know, I love him to pieces. I've watched him go from, you know, a senior in high school and come down to visit Alabama, the great university, national champions, and to go and become a young man and to get into the NFL and play so well these last 2 years. So I've enjoyed my time of just watching him. We still text and talk consistently. So everything that he's getting, he works so hard for. So I'm just really proud of him. So I don't get the vote though. So let me start with that. But if I did, you know, unbiasedly, it would be Derrick.
Yeah, exactly. And Derrick Henry, a Bama back like yourself, had an unreal stretch. You had an incredible run as well. You won MVP in 05. You were 28, and Derrick Henry just turned 27. Are you nervous at all that his playing style doesn't translate to longevity in the NFL? Or what advice do you have for him about making sure he can maintain his play?
So even in the 20-some years that I've been on, you know, so what's it, 15, I guess, since I've you know, gosh, that's so crazy, you know. So 15 years since 05 when I won the MVP, you know. The way people take care of their bodies is just so, the science behind it is so much greater, you know, mentally, emotionally, physically. They've just got I remember when I sat in the infrared sauna and I was like, what is this? And like, yeah, it's kind of heating your body from the inside. I'm like, what? Oh, okay, yeah. Those were just coming out, you know what I mean? And then they got the oxygen tanks, they got the cold tanks. They've got so many things to get your body to get back in a more natural way than even just pumping yourself full of medicines and vitamins, you know? And Derrick is one of those guys that he is very focused and driven to take care of his body, and he does that very well. And so guys have a greater chance to be healthier a long way, you know, from different exercises and different things you eat to how you can take care of it. So he's got a chance to play, you know, 2, 3, 5 more years at this kind of level, where we were just learning that kind of stuff when I was there.
From your perspective, I mean, this past team was amazing, but Nick Saban, 7 rings. What makes him so successful in your mind, and his program at Alabama? How has he been able to create this dynasty for college football?
So Monica, let me explain to you how Alabama people really feel. We only think he's got 6, so we're gonna throw that out there first. We don't care what he did at that other school that we don't care. So it's 6 national championships.
Okay, my bad.
They're amazing.
Put me on. All right.
My oldest son was born in 09, and this is all he knows. He knows, man, so we win every other year. I'm like, yep. You know, it's so 6 championships in 12 years. It's so powerful and so amazing. We loved the fact that we got him. Shout outs to Ozzie Newsome for giving that call and be like, hey, I think we get Saban, you know, when he was at Miami. And so shout outs to him for making that happen. But he is a guy that understands what it means to create the culture. And so in a time where you got kids opting out of their games because they want to get ready for the draft, we have kids jumping in. Everybody jumps back in. You know, if the game was close, you would have saw, you know, Devontae Smith tape up his finger and come back in the game. You know, like you got a little Jalen Waddle, you know, on one foot playing in the game. You got people wanting to, this is the culture that we create. We all want to pass the legacy on that this is the greatest school in college football, and everybody's all in about it. Like, so guys come in and we reload, and we're not hating on each other. We want everybody to be great. We want all our records to be broken so that we can keep on winning championships. This is our culture. And so he helped build that back up that was really missing, you know, from the time when Gene Stallings left. And so I was there. I was the last recruit for Gene Stallings, and you could tell, like, right after my class leaves, it just falls off until Saban gets there.
Welcome back to Weekly Pulse. Eagles fans, if your head coach is losing games on purpose, that's not a good sign, unless you're the Jets. Eagles reporter Martin Frank has more on the Doug Peterson firing, and of course, before we let you go, Lorenzo gives his locks for the divisional round games.
Rory seems intent on kind of getting back the Eagles back to their prominence when they were making the playoffs pretty much every season back in the early 2000s under Andy Reid. So what I'm hearing is that Lurie wants someone like that, an offensive-minded type of coach, more so than a defensive coach, and that the process could take a while for the Eagles to identify that person, and it could even be someone in the college ranks as opposed to the NFL. And if it is a college coach, it could be someone like Lincoln Riley, who coached Hurts at Oklahoma, and then the year before he coached Kyler Murray, and then the year before that, Baker Mayfield. So, you know, there are a lot of interesting candidates. It's going to take a while for all that to flesh itself out, but the Eagles are on that path now after a season that was by far worse than any they could have imagined, and it ended up costing Doug Peterson his job just 3 years after winning the Super Bowl.
If Lorenzo's Locks was a playoff team, let's just say we'd be one and done after last week's showing. But thankfully, we've got the benefit of sticking around. I'm Lorenzo Reyes, and I've been covering the NFL for 7 years now, and it's a playoffs, but Lorenzo's Locks doesn't stop. Here are my 2 bets for Saturday of the divisional round. And let's kick this off with what's one of my favorite individual matchups to watch for the weekend, between Jalen Ramsey and Devontae Adams. They're 2 All-Pros at the top of their game, and while we've crushed on the Packers team all season long, the LA defense has been showing out lately and made life miserable for Russell Wilson. Watch for the health status of Aaron Donald, but the matchup between Green Bay's top-scoring offense and LA's top-scoring defense tells me this is going to be closer than the 6.5-point line. The icy weather in Green Bay does worry me, and I think that will affect LA's offense. Still, I think 6.5 is too many points. I've got the Packers winning, but the Rams covering 26-23. Moving on, let's look at my favorite game of the week overall, between the Ravens and the Bills. Buffalo admittedly let me down last week and didn't cover against the Colts, but I think there were a lot of things that this team can learn from that game. Namely, they need to keep drives alive and be better on third down. That goes even more strongly against the Ravens, who can control the clock behind their impressive rushing offense. Tied for second best at home this year against the spread, coupled with a smaller line against a team that's good, but has been boosted by a weaker recent schedule, I like the Bills to cover too. I've got Buffalo winning 29-24. Here are my 2 bets for Sunday of the divisional round. And let's get this going with a line that I admit I've gone back and forth on, but here's where I've settled. The Cleveland Browns won't get as lucky as they were against the Steelers, who started miserably, and they won't get the Chiefs to commit so many careless turnovers. That rushing attack does scare me, which is why I think Cleveland can put up points and keep this close. Speaking of points, Kansas City does this better than just about everyone, and they can literally go on scoring barrages that are like using a spoon to shovel your sidewalk during a blizzard. More is always coming. Still, the Chiefs, who were favored in all but one game this year, not counting that regular season finale when KC rested everybody, and still went 7-9 against the spread. I think 10 is too many. I've got the Chiefs winning, but Cleveland covering 31-27. And finally, let's look at a game that everyone is talking about because of the 2 GOATs playing QB. And yes, that should be fun. But for our purposes, let's look elsewhere. The Saints already beat Tampa twice this year. But it was that Week 9 blowout that changed the season for Tampa and made it realize that it would need to rush the ball to be effective. For Tampa to cover 3, it will need that pass rush to affect Drew Brees' timing, and it will need that rushing game to wear down the Saints' impressive defensive front. I've got the Bucs covering and winning straight up 30-28.
That does it for this week's episode of Weekly Pulse. The NFL divisional round starts this weekend. The 2 GOATs will battle it out between Tom Brady's Buccaneers and Drew Brees' Saints. Can Lamar Jackson live up to his full potential in his first snow game against the Bills? We'll see about that. Until next week, I'm Mackenzie Salmon. Thanks for watching. Hey sports fans, if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of our other ones right here. And if you like what you see, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more from USA Today Sports.